So before I get started, I'm really excited to be here today, and I just want to take a really quick selfie with all of you. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take a quick selfie. So if you don't want to be in the photo, just like cover your face, but here we go. Sweet. All right, thanks. All right, cool. So the theme for API Days is beyond API regulations for finance, insurance, and healthcare. And I know that you've seen tons of sessions that are, revolved around that, but I wanted to do something that is completely different and have a little bit more fun. So what we're going to be doing today is building an application that will text you NBA news. So yeah, completely different than the normal theme for today. But yeah, my name is Anthony. I'm a developer evangelist at Twilio, and you can connect with me online at Anthony J. Della. That is pretty much the handle that I use for everything. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you, and if you have any questions later on, just reach out to me. So yeah, who here has heard about Twilio? Raise your hand. Okay, yeah, a lot of you. A lot of folks on this table. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with Twilio, that's fine. I like to think of us as like a communication layer, like on top of the internet. So what that means is if you're a company or a developer that wants to add communications into your application, you would look at Twilio to do that. We have like a ton of different communication APIs, as you can see from here, that allow you to integrate that into your own application, and it's really simple to use. So we've got things like from SMS to video chat, voice chat, WhatsApp, email, you name it, and we basically have it. So today I'm going to be talking about like our bread and butter product, which is SMS or messaging. So yeah, basically this API allows you to use code to send you a text message. And fun fact about texts, 6 billion are sent per day, and 27 trillion are sent per year. That's just a random fun fact that I found, and I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, I am a really big sports fan and huge fan of the NBA. And like right now, the NBA season is not ongoing. It's the off season, so there's no games that are happening. But for a lot of like hardcore fans, we feel that this time is like just as exciting as the actual season because there's so much drama that's going on. Different players are like demanding to get traded, and just tons of stuff happening. Like for example, a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you've heard, but there's a star player who plays for the New York Knicks, Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they both demanded to be traded. So yeah, a lot of us hardcore fans like to think of now as something called F5 season. So that's what we call it. It's kind of a meme. And what that means is like on your keyboard, there's an F5 key. And if you push that button, it like refreshes your browser. So we call it that because like people are just like sitting at their computers and they're just pushing that button to refresh their browser to see if like any news has happened. So basically I wanted to do the exact same thing for your phone. So yeah, it's a really, really silly application that doesn't really have that big of a use case. It's just, fun. So yeah, what we're gonna do today is we're gonna build an application, which is denoted from this picture right here. And it's called NBA News. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna get us NBA News. And then like after we run the application, we're gonna get a text on our phone that pops up and it should give us NBA News. So after we do that, we're gonna make some tweaks, and we're gonna make it so that whenever I text my phone, I get back NBA News. So in this example, like I'm texting the number, I'm saying F5, which again means like I want to refresh the news. And then what happens is that is going to trigger a webhook, which is configured on Twilio. And then Twilio is going to send our application a request, and then our application is going to send Twilio back a response, and then we're going to get back a text message that contains NBA news. So that's like the flow of this application. And yeah, I made those images if you think they're cool. Yeah, I got a thumbs up. Cool. Thanks. So yeah, by the way, if I'm going too quickly here, or if you want to reference this later on, I wrote a blog post at this URL. And if you want to like reference it later, just go to Twilio's blog and you could find it there. You could also go to Google and just type in like NBA news with Twilio, and that will probably pop up. Cool. So yeah, let's dive into this workshop. I would like it to be interactive, hopefully. So if you like brought your computer, you could like pull it out and hopefully we could code together. If not, that's totally fine. You could just watch. And again, I'm going to be writing this in Python. And if you don't know Python, that's fine. I'm going to try and explain things line by line and hopefully make it understandable. So yeah, let me get into the code. No, not on your phone, sorry. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. Yeah, we can build it later though from the instructions in the blog post. So this is a website called Sportsdata Io, and it is a website that basically allows developers to get back a bunch of information for various sports. So like, let's say you don't like NBA. Let's say you want like information for the NFL or for soccer or for hockey. You could go to this website and pick a different sport and get back different information. So there's no like partnership with this in Twilio. It's just a cool service that I found online. And basically what you would do is you would just like click on this button to sign up for a free trial account. And it gives you an API key, which you will use later. So after you do that, you're gonna go to this URL. Let me try and make it bigger. Well, the URL is twilio.com/try-Twilio, yeah. And basically you sign up for a free account with Twilio, and you don't need a credit card to sign up. Yeah, so that's basically what you need to get started. And because we're using Python, you're gonna need Python installed on your computer and a couple of other utilities. Yeah, let me dive into the code right now. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna open up Visual Studio Code, which is my editor of choice. So if you're following along, you can open up whatever editor you use. And the first thing I'm doing is creating a file called nbanews.py. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use that sports data API to get back NBA news. So I'm gonna show you how you can work with that API really quickly. So first you're gonna import this module called requests and then the OS module. And then I'm gonna say from .env, we're gonna import load.env. And I'm gonna call this function. If you're not super familiar with Python, this basically just loads in environment variables, which I stored earlier. So in that file, I entered in my API key and my auth token and my account SID with Twilio. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't really want to share that info with you because it's private info. It's an API key, right? So you need to keep it hidden. And then next, I'm going to create a URL, which is the URL that we're going to interact with Sportsdata Io. So as you can see, this is the URL. If you take a look at it, you can see that this is an API with sportsdata.io. It's version 3, and we're basically getting back NBA news. So what we're doing here is we're going to make a GET request to this API. And if you're familiar with GET requests, basically you're appending a query string to the end of this URL. So like in effect, this URL should be something like this. It should say like the name of the URL, and then you append your API key here. So that's what we're going to be doing. So let me just delete this, and next thing I'll do is I'll create a dictionary of parameters. I'm going to give it a key of key because I'm really creative with the names, and I'm going to get my value, which I stored again in my environment variable, and that key is called Sportsdata API key. And next, I'm going to create a function, which is, again, going to get us NBA news. So I'm going to define a function and call it getNews. And so we're working with a module called requests, and this is the Python module. So we're making a get request. So I'm going to say requests.get, and then I'm going to pass in the URL and then the parameters. Now, after I make this request, I'm going to get back a response, right? So I'm just going to wrap it in a response. And then I am going to just simply return this response as JSON. And yeah, that's basically all the code that we need to write in order to interact with this API. So to test it, I am going to print it out. So let's just print it, print get news. And then, yeah, it looks good to me. So I am going to open up my terminal. And fortunately, I don't know how to like make it bigger. It's actually not getting any bigger. So sorry about that. But I'm going to run this file. Oh, before I run it, though, I need to activate my virtual environment. So just a second. Yeah, so let me run that file with the command Python and then the name of the file, which is NBA News. And as you can see, yeah, we're getting back this like really ugly mess of data. So this is JSON data that we're getting back from that API. And like, if you look at it right now, your eyes might be like hurting. You know, what is this? Yeah, it's a lot of news, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up here and copy that output, and then I'm just going to format it in a formatter in Chrome that I found online. So yeah, this is basically oh, let me make it bigger. So this is a formatter. Oh, no, I've got a button right here that makes it bigger. So yeah, on the right you can see what this data looks like when it's formatted. As you can see, there's a bunch of different news that we're getting back. So for example, this first piece of news, this first block, it happened 14 hours ago, and the title of this article was that Aaron Baines is going to resume playing basketball. It then has some more information like the content of that article, as well as a URL, which is where the article came from. It also has something that is pretty important to me, which is categories. So as you can see here, this category is injuries. But for me and in my application, I don't really care about injuries. I just want like top headlines. So this piece of info isn't really important to me. And yeah, just note that down for later. You know, there's also a bunch of other info like where the source of this article came from. So if you're a fan of like the NBA, you know this guy, Brian Windhurst. He's a sports writer who like breaks a bunch of news, and this is the source of that news. Yeah, so that is the data that we're working with. Let me minimize this. Now what I am trying to do is I'm gonna change up my application a little bit. So here what we're doing is we're getting back all of that NBA news, but for my application, I only wanna get back data for today. So I'm gonna refactor this and get back news for today. So first I'm gonna create a today variable, and we're gonna call date.today. And I've got squiggly line here, which means that I need to import my module. So from date time import date. So we're getting today. Now, again, if you look at this URL, what's happening? We're getting all of our news. So I'm going to rename this this variable. I'm just going to say like news all. And again, I want to get back news for today. So I'm creating a new variable, URL news today. And here I'm going to be interacting with another API. So I have the URL right here. Let me just copy this. And what we're doing here is we're calling another endpoint. So if you look at this URL, we're calling the news by date endpoint, and we're passing in today. So again, we're looking for news today. So next, I'm gonna change up this function a little bit. Now I'm gonna make it take in a date, and it's gonna be optional. And I'm gonna write a condition that says, like, if the date is today, then I am going to make a GET request to the URL of news today, right? And else, if what you give me is not today, I am going to get all of the news back, right? So hopefully that made sense to you. We're passing in a date. If that date is today, we're getting back news for today. If not, we're getting back all NBA news. So now what I want to do is I don't just want to get news. Remember, I talked about the category earlier, and it said like injuries, and there's different types of categories. The category that I'm interested in is top headlines. So I'm going to create a function which will get us top headlines. So let's create a function called get headlines. And again, this one is going to take in a date, which is optional. And the first thing I'm going to do is just create a target category variable. And this is the category that we're dealing with, right? It's top headlines. So next, I'm just going to create a conditional right here. I'm going to say, like, if the date exists and if F5 is in the date, what I'm going to do here is I am going to get our response, and I'm going to call the previous function that we wrote, which is get news, and I'm passing in today. Now, if we don't get news, then we're going to check these headlines. And we're going to return a string. And that string is going to say, like, I don't know, let's say, sorry, API days, no headlines today. Keep F5ing, which again means keep refreshing, right? And then here I'm going to say else, let's get our response for all news. And then here, what I'm going to do is I am going to return our response, but I need to print it out first. So let's say print headlines, and it takes in a response and a target category. Okay, so hopefully I didn't lose you with that function. It's a little bit long. Again, let me recap what it's doing. It's taking in a date. It's looking at a category of top headlines. It's looking for that input, and if it's saying, okay, if this is a date, and if it contains the string F5, then get the news just for today. Now, if there's no news for today, we're going to return a string that says, sorry, API days, there are no headlines today. Keep F5ing. Else, we're going to get back all NBA news. And then finally, we're going to print it out. So again, you can see a couple of issues with this. There are a couple of squiggly lines here, which means I need to write these utility functions. So let's write the first one, which is check headlines. And this takes in a response and our target category. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm getting back my response. What I need to do is I need to loop through that response and look at each piece of news. So I'm going to create a for loop. I'm going to say for news in the response. And then after I am in each piece of news, I'm going to look for that category to see if it matches this top headlines category that I'm looking for. So I'm going to say if target category is in news, categories. Then I'm going to return true. And then here I'm going to return false. So let me just recap what that function is doing. Again, it's taking in that response, it's looping through the response, it's looking at each piece of news, and then it's looking at the category to see if it's a top headline. If it is a top headline, it's going to return true. If not, it's going to return false. So now I'm going to create one more function here to fix this squiggly line, print headlines. So I'm going to say define print headlines. It's going to take in a response and a target category. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a string. I'm just going to name it output, and it's an empty string. And I'm going to do something similar here. I'm going to loop through my response. So for news, in response. And then again, I'm looking at each piece of news, so I need that same condition. If target category is in news categories, then I'm going to append that news to that string that I created. So I'm just going to say output, and I'm going to format my string here. So I'm going to say title, which is a string, and then I'm going to give it a value in these curly braces. So I'm going to say news and title. And then here I'm going to print a new line. Now I'm going to do what all great programmers do, which is just copy and paste this here. And I'm going to get the date. And this is coming from time ago. I'm going to do that one more time, but this time I'm just going to print out a bunch of dashes. And then finally, I am just going to return my output. So again, what this is doing is it's printing out my headlines, right? I'm looping through the response, checking that condition, and then printing out the values of that news. All right, cool. So this looks pretty good to me. Let's see if it works. Let me run it. We're going to print get headlines, and let's go back into my terminal. Let me clear this out just so that it's a little bit easier to see. And yeah, let's run this file again. Now, as you can see, we're getting back NBA news, and we're getting back all of that NBA news that are top headlines. And as you can see, some NBA news that happened recently, Jaylen Brown was reportedly included in a package with the Nets, and that happened 2 days ago. And then, yeah, we're just getting back a bunch of NBA news. So do you remember what happens if you pass in F5 into this function? Well, remember, F5 means that you're only getting back news for today. So I'm going to test this out and see what happens. And I'm getting back a message that says, sorry, there are no headlines for today. Keep F5ing. Yeah, because there have been no headlines today, right? So yeah, that is cool. Let me go back into my presentation just to recap what we've done so far. All right, so far we've done one of three things. Right now we've just created our silly little application called NBA News. But the whole point of this is for it to text our phone that NBA news, right? So in this next step, I'm going to show you how you can do that using Twilio's APIs. So yeah, let me exit this, and what we're going to do is just add one more function, and I'm going to name it send text, and it's going to take in some input, which is optional. Now, the first thing that I need to do in order to send a text message with Twilio is I need an account SID and an auth token. So an account SID is basically just a unique ID that is given to your Twilio account, and then the auth token is a token that's associated with that account. So I'm going to get my account SID by doing this. So earlier, again, I stored this in environment variables, and this is how I am getting that value from that key that I had stored earlier. And again, I'm doing it this way because you shouldn't really share this information to everybody, especially developers, because they know what to do with it, right? So this is my auth token. All right, so next, I'm gonna need to initialize a client. So I'm just gonna create a variable called client, and we're gonna initialize it client. And it's gonna take in two things, which is the account SID and the auth token that I just got. So we're gonna pass those in. And again, you can see like a squiggly line here, which means that I need to fix this. I need to import that module. So I'm gonna say, from Twilio.rest, let's import our client. And that went away. So now I'm gonna create my text message. And it's really simple to do. Just create a variable. I'm gonna say it's a text message. And I'm gonna call this client.messages.create. And we need 3 pieces of info to send a text. We need a from value, a to value, and then like a body. So just think of it this way. So you're sending this number from a certain number to another number, right? And then it contains a certain message, right? So I'm sending this number from my Twilio number, which is 19403948137. And then I'm sending a text to my personal phone number, which I'm gonna enter here. What is it? Okay. So that's my personal number. And then it takes in a body, which is the actual like message that you're sending. So, for example, I could like send a text that just says like, hey, API days. And what this would be doing is it's gonna be sending a text message from my Twilio number that goes to my number, and the message says, hey, API days. But like in this case, I don't want that to happen, right? I want to get our NBA news. So instead of hard coding this, I'm going to call our function get headlines, and it's going to take in some user input. And then finally, I'm just going to print out our text messages body. And yeah, that's pretty much all the code that you need to write to send a text message. Just these few lines right here. So now let's run this file, or run this this function, send text. And before I run it, let me do something. Let me share my screen. So I've got my phone here, which is connected to my computer, and I have this software here that that shares my screen. So this is literally my phone right now. Yeah, this is my phone. Oh, where'd it go? Disconnected. Okay, yeah, so this is my phone, and I'm just gonna put it on the side, and let's run this file again. So I'm gonna call it Python NBA News. I'm gonna hit enter. Oh, we've got an error. So no module named requests. Oh, okay. I just need to activate my virtual environment. So let's try that again. Python NBA News. Okay. Let's see if I got my text back. So I didn't get my text back. Let's see, what did I do wrong here? So let's do some live debugging. So I've got my account SID using my Twilio account SID. I've got my auth token here, initializing a client, passing in my account SID and auth token, creating a text from my number. Let's just see if this is right. 940-394-8137. Let me just double check. This is my number. Yeah. And then the body contains get headlines. The plus one. Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you, Sam. Okay. Maybe that was the issue. So yeah, let me try and rerun this. Hopefully it works this time. Oh, no. Huh.
So when you type in on the phone number,
Mm-hmm.
you say 94035.
So the number that I used, so this is my Twilio number, and I have it written down here. So it's 940-394-8137. Yeah, that's right, right? Okay. So what is going on? Interesting. I didn't get back a text either. Well, okay. What I'm going to do is, I can't seem to figure this out right now, but good thing is I wrote the code earlier, so I'm just going to copy and paste it from working code. Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't figure this out, but let's see. Hopefully this works. Okay, so let me rerun this file. Huh, it didn't work either. So it wasn't my code. Huh. Check my Twilio console, okay. Let's see. Twilio.com/console. That's interesting. Do I have Signal? Let me see. Yeah, I've got Signal. So that is a dilemma. Any ideas? Yeah, I didn't print out any error messages. That's really weird. Let me just run it again. This is the file name, right? Python nbanews.py. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I think I do. At least, let's see. I'm in the wrong directory, I think. Yeah, so, dang. Dang, okay. Yeah. Was that it? Did I get a text? I hope I did. I got a text. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Wow. You know, the little things count when you're coding, right? Unfortunately. So yeah, as you can see, I got a text message right here. And this contains a bunch of NBA news, right? And as you can see, this message was sent at 12:15 p.m. And right now it's 12:15 p.m. So you know that this is live. Sorry about the issues earlier. But yeah, let me show you again what happens whenever you input F5. And then let's run this file again. So I should get back another text, which I got right here, which says, yeah, no. Okay, sweet. Cool. Okay, great. So let's go back into my Prezzo and, okay. So now what I'm going to do, again, is I'm going to refactor this application, add some features so that instead of like just getting back a text message, I want to be able to text my phone. So for example, I want to text it F5 and then get back NBA news. So let me show you how you could do that. Let's exit this again. So what I'm going to do is I am going to create a new file, and it's going to be called app.py. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say from Flask, let's import Flask and request. Then I'm going to say from twilio.twiml.messaging response, we're going to import messaging response. And then I'm going to import the code that I just wrote. So I'm going to say from NBA news, let's import get headlines. And what I'm doing here is I'm using Flask, which is a web framework in Python. So we're just creating a simple little web app right here. So in order to do that, I'm just going to initialize a Flask app. And then I'm just going to run this app. I'm going to say if name is equal to main, then let's run this app. And let's run it on localhost, and let's give it a port number. let's say 8080. And then let's set this to debugging is true. Debug equals true. So here I'm just creating a simple Flask app. And then now I'm going to create a route for our application. So I'm going to say app.route. So the route that we're going to use is /NBA. And we're going to use, we're going to give it the ability to use a get or a post method. And then I'm going to define one more function. And this one, I'm just going to call it like incoming SMS. And this takes in some user input, which again is optional. And the first thing that I need is my user input. So I'm just going to say like user input is equal to request dot values dot get body. Okay, so I've got my user input. Now I need to get my news from the code that I wrote earlier. So I'm going to say headlines is equal to get headlines, and then I'm passing in the user input. Next, I'm going to initialize a messaging response object. And then I am just going to attach these headlines to that message. And then finally, I'm going to just print out my response. And yeah, that's basically the code that we need to write for this web app. So let me just check this really quickly to see if it looks good before I run it. Yeah, it looks fine to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my terminal. And this time I'm going to run that file, which is app.py. Ooh, error. OK. Cannot import get headlines from NBA News. Interesting. Let's see. Import from NBA News, import get headlines. And that's the name of the file, right? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did I copied and pasted it, which had the wrong name. So it's get transactions in this case. Right, so let's rerun this. And as you can see, I'm running this application. And right now, it's only running locally on this local computer at this URL, which is localhost 8080. So what we're doing is we're working with a webhook. And a webhook needs a publicly available URL. And I can't do that right now because this is literally just running on my computer. So a tool that we like to use at Twilio is called ngrok. And I'm going to run this command, this ngrok command. And what it's basically doing is, see this URL right here? It assigns me a unique URL, and then it basically gets my local application and puts it on that URL. So not only is my application running locally, it's deployed right now. So if you go to that URL, you can literally see my app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this URL. And I'm going to go into my Twilio console. And then I'm going to go to phone numbers, manage my active number. I'm going to click on my phone number. Oh, I need to zoom in, don't I? And then I'm going to scroll down and find the setting that falls under messaging. And right here, we see a setting that says, like, when a message comes in, call a webhook. And as you can see here, I paste in that ngrok URL, and then I append /NBA to the end of it because that's the route that I created in my web app. And then I save it. So now everything should be good, hopefully. Now let me open up my phone again and see if it works. So now I'm going to send a text that says like, please give me news. Hopefully it works. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, what did I do wrong? Oh, it was because I copied and pasted it. Isn't that the reason? Okay. Oh, okay. Get transactions. Yeah, that's the reason. So let's rerun this. Actually, I don't need to rerun this because it should be loading automatically. So let's retype in this message. Huh? Oh. Which part? Oh, so yeah. So let me just go back here and kind of like re-explain it. So I created a route, which is /NBA. And right here, what I'm doing is I'm getting some user input. And then I am calling a function that I wrote earlier, which is getting NBA news. And then here, I am attaching those headlines to a text message. And then if you just write this code, it doesn't work. Then you have to go into Twilio's console and configure a webhook. So right here, you can see I configured my webhook here with the ngrok URL that I ran earlier. So that's how everything is connected. Yeah. So now if I text this number, so please give me, no, not text, please give me news. Yeah, okay, cool. So I said, please give me news, and now I get a text message back with NBA news. So if you remember, like, what the whole point of this application was to do was, like, if I type in F5, right, I should get back news today. So I'm gonna type in F5, hit send, and as you can see, it says no transactions happen today, keep F5ing. So like the whole point of this meme application is that you just keep texting it F5 over and over and over, and then you get back the latest NBA news, right? So yeah, that worked. Awesome. Let's go back into here. Now, if you'd like to try this out yourself, I'm running this application right now. I'll run it for a few more minutes, but if you text this phone number, 940-394-8137, so if you text it, you should get back NBA news. And remember, if you send in a message, you'll get back all NBA news, but if you type in a message that has F5 in it, it'll say like, oh, sorry, there's no news today, or it'll give you back news. Yeah, it worked? Sweet. Nice. Okay, great. Yeah, so that's our app. So what I did today is I created a silly app that really has no purpose, to be honest with you. It's just like a fun little app that I made. But like I like to think of Twilio as like a Lego set. Basically, Twilio gives you like a Lego set, and it's kind of up to you to like be creative with it and build your own thing on top of Twilio. So like in my use case, I was given a Lego set, right? And then I built this silly little NBA app. But like there are so many different things that you can do with this. And let me give you a couple of examples. So Airbnb, for example, uses Twilio. Whenever you book an Airbnb, it sends a text message to the host and to the person booking it. So all that is powered by Twilio. Yelp uses Twilio SMS. Whenever you book a reservation, it sends you and the restaurant a text message, and you can modify your reservation through text. And then Box uses Twilio to do two-factor authentication over text. And then Uber uses Twilio SMS. Whenever you book an Uber, it sends text messages back and forth between you and the driver. It's actually like, yeah, if you're texting that driver, it doesn't show their real number. It's a Twilio phone number. So yeah, those are some use cases with Twilio SMS. And you know, we have a bunch of other customers in the financial and healthcare space, such as the ones listed there. So yeah, again, this can go from a silly little NBA app to using your creativity and then building it into your own business. So again, my name is Anthony. Hope you enjoyed that presentation. If you have any questions or if you want to like follow up with me later, again, those are my social accounts. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. I'm going to be giving a talk later today at 3:50 in the main hall, and it's going to be completely different than this. It's going to be I'm going to be talking about how you can gain trust in APIs and what you should be looking for. So it has nothing to do with this talk, but if you enjoyed this, hopefully you'll enjoy that talk too. And hopefully I see you there. So thanks. Oh, yeah.